Alright, Trial Mob, so to start off a new series of mine, I'm going to be doing pros and cons videos where basically I give you the highlights, both bad and good, about a figure. And this is in order to bring you guys more content a little bit more quickly, and this is not a replacement for a full review. This is just simply something to give you guys, again, some content. And if you guys like the video, if I get enough requests for it, and if I do find the time for it, I have no problem doing a full video on these figures. This is going to include not just the 12-inch scale stuff, but all my acid rain stuff, just anything that I can do to get this stuff out to you guys in a bit more of a timely fashion. And again, if you guys want full reviews, I can always do that for you guys. So to start it off, we have Man at Arms. Let me go ahead and give you guys all the highlights. Let's get it. Alright, Trial Mob, so here we have in Masters of the Universe Revelation Man at Arms. This is a pros and con video, so I'm going to give you guys the goods and the bads in a quick freestyle action so we can get you guys in and out of this as quickly as possible. So to start everything off, we're going to go with the pros first. So the main pro that I'm going to start off with is going to be just basically the box design. I'm not going to lie to you, for me this is definitely one of my favorite box arts that I've gotten so far. The window size is big, the figure itself is kind of massive, the Masters of the Universe Revelations, everything about it I like for the most part. And when we come around to the back, we do get a nice photo of Man at Arms himself, as you guys can see there. Let me go ahead and give you guys an overall look. There you go. He looks awesome. This really does embody what we do see in the show, and I do like the overall aesthetic of this. They could have done something way more simple, but they didn't, so I really do appreciate that overall we did get something that's fairly quality looking. Alright, so now here we have Man at Arms out of the package, and let me go ahead and give you guys the next pro, and I'm pretty sure you guys can tell off the rip, but the main pro that I'm going to see here is just basically the design. The design here is pretty faithful to the original series, what he basically looked like, but obviously modernized, and I have to say I really like that overall. Just the overall aesthetic for me is just really nice. The colors that we get, the greens, some of the shading, I want to say that maybe more money has been allocated to Man at Arms compared to some of the other figures, because I just feel that there's way more going on here, and I really appreciate that. So for me, that's going to be the next pro, right? We do see generally the colors seem a bit more well put together. There's a little bit more color throughout the body. The oranges themselves are really cool. The green undertone was done, I think, a little bit nicer. His weapon is fairly just a flat color, which I kind of wish there would have been a little bit more to it, but I'm more glad that the body itself looks really nice. So that's going to be my next pro. Now, in conjunction with that, I will say that his face, Man at Arms' face, is done very nicely. And as you guys can tell, you know, it's a good, clean, aesthetic look overall. And compared to some other things that I've done before, like for instance, the Man at Arms, or not the Man at Arms, but I just did a Midas Rex video, which you guys are going to get soon. This is a lot cleaner paintwork, basically from top to bottom. Their QC, I would say, is just phenomenal on this guy right here, and that makes the figure itself pop as being just a better figure overall. Now, the next pro for me is going to be the general size of this figure. It's a nice, thick, meaty buck, and I appreciate that. Let's go ahead and do a few comparisons. So there we have it next to the main man, Goliath himself, and as you can tell, he's definitely a lot shorter, but he's still bulky enough to kind of look like this could be from the same faction. NECA is obviously on a whole nother level in terms of their figure scaling, so I want to say that this might be a little bit out of scale, but this still kind of works for me. Here we have him next to one of the Primaris that we recently got from Joy Toy, obviously way out of scale, but just to give you a rough estimate about how big this guy is. And then here we have him next to Costco Reeves, which, as you can tell, this is nowhere near in the same vicinity in terms of sizing. You know, Hasbro usually does stuff that's a little bit on the smaller side, and Mattel here is just doing absolutely massive figures, as you can tell, and they're both about the same price point. Now, the next big pro to me is going to be the articulation. I'm not going to go through it because I'll save that for a full review, but as you can tell, he does come with double joints everywhere, top and bottom, and he does come with a pegless design top and bottom, which I really do appreciate. The armor that's on top of him is actually removable. Everything you basically see on him is basically removable, where he's basically just the green armor on the bottom. So I appreciate that. That is also going to be another pro, just the modularity of this guy and being able to put potentially other armor on him later. But as you can tell, he does come with all the main beats in terms of articulation. So I think that that's something that I definitely appreciate. Now I'm going to switch over to the cons, and this is going to be stuff for you that may or may not be a deal breaker, but I'm going to just go ahead and put it together. So this first one that I'm going to go through is going to be the articulation. Now I know that I did just basically say that the articulation is a pro. It is a pro compared to some of the stuff from, let's say, like Super 7, where they have that old school vintage stuff that's just not worth the price point for me. I really think it's kind of a steal. But this right here is a lot better. However, I will say this, and this is a consistent problem amongst all the figures. So to begin with, it's going to be this right here. So the articulation for this hand right here, with the weapon holding hand, is the push-up grip. Any figure that's going to have basically a sword in their hand, a club, any kind of close melee weapon, a knife even, should not have this style hand. They should have the one that folds downwards. And let me go ahead and show you from another figure what I'm referring to. So here we have Midas Rex, and if you look at the hand, you're going to notice that the hand folds downwards, which allows them to basically point the sword at you, basically like it's a gun, and I really appreciate that. But if we look at Duncan here, Man-at-Arms, and we put his club in his hand, he can't do that. And I don't understand. This is even a bigger problem with He-Man, because you might not hold this club in that fashion, but no matter what I do, whether it's forward or back, he's always just going to have it basically static, and I wish I could have him point, especially He-Man. He-Man's buck should definitely do that. Anyone that has a sword should specifically be able to do that, and I think that's a huge detriment to almost all the figures, because all these figures are melee fighters, and none of them can do that, and I don't like that at all. And following up with that, under this body, there is no, especially for how big these guys are, there's no butterfly joint. And I'm sorry, but at this size, there's no reason why they couldn't have implemented that, especially with the fact that a lot of these guys are armored. They could have been put in a huge butterfly joint, because look, if I bring the arms forward and I push them forward as close as they can, he can't really bring his arms together. And when I try to put him in a position where he can hold his weapon together, yes, he can do it if I finagle it. But I mean, it's kind of as you can tell, a little bit of a tight fit, and that doesn't necessarily look good. I really do think that this figure should have come with the butterfly joints in the shoulders, and good ones at that. I think that would have made these figures a cut above what they are, and I think that they're just shy of that, specifically because of those two things: the swivel in the hand and the butterfly joints at this specific size. There's no reason why they couldn't have implemented that in this figure. Now the next con is actually going to be quality. Look, I understand that these are $30 figures, but when you look at, let's say, and not even, these are sub $30 figures. When you look at the stuff from Hasbro, like the Casca Reeves I just brought up, paintwork is phenomenal. Every single joint works well. The plastic feels nice. I'm willing to say that it's not necessarily the case with any of the stuff from Mattel. There's a lot of plastic shavings kind of everywhere, hidden through the body. Back here you can see some of it. In the arm you can see a little bit more. And this isn't even the worst one. I had a Beastman that I returned last week that just had it everywhere. Everywhere. It was kind of bad. I'm surprised I didn't notice it at first. And one of the things that I don't like about the plastic is that, especially up here in this ball joint, it doesn't feel all that great when you're moving it. This right here, these bicep joints, it must be made out of like a different kind of plastic, and same with the legs, because those feel fine. But up here in the arms, they're just not that great. So there's that. But other than that, I think that there are not too many cons. But the one thing that I'm going to ask Mattel to do, guys, is Mattel, I would almost take this figure, make it about 10% smaller, up the price by 10%, and give us more well-defined figures that have better quality, better plastic, and a little bit more articulation. At this physical size, I do like it, but some of those QC shortcomings and some of the other things that they can't give us due to probably just the sheer size of the figure, I really think this Masters of the Universe line, especially considering that a lot of us that are going to want to buy this, that are going to want to buy, you know, some of this Masters of the Universe stuff, are probably going to be a little bit older anyway. They're going to have a little bit more money to throw. And while a $20 figure is good, I feel a $30 very well made figure might have done this line a little bit more justice, especially if they wanted to go at this size, which Mattel tends to make their stuff big. But I don't know. I do like it. I do think that it's a figures, but this is more the exception rather than being the standard across the board for Mattel in terms of the figures. But with that said, if you do like this guy, those are the pros and cons that I found for it. Maybe there's other things that you guys like or don't like. Please let me know in the comments below what you do and don't like. And as I'm doing more of these pros and cons videos to try to get content out to you guys a little bit more efficiently before I give you guys a full breakdown review of every single portion of the figure, let me know if there's anything that you guys would want me to make sure I touch base on that can make an easier buying decision for you guys in the future. All right, but until the next episode, this was a TBG feature, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Deuces.